One puzzle solved, but all too easily it pops over. What's happening inside? These are mechanical puzzles which are a little more photogenic to look at, because although this one I suppose you can spend ages just playing with it yourself, it's quite fun to show to people. Inside there's a very heavy ball, and you've got to drop the ball down from top to bottom so it sits exactly in that holder, and then the thing is completely balanced. I found I was doing that and I couldn't get around it. So eventually I found a simple solution, which is to take a little neodymium magnet, well, quite a big one, hold it up at the top there, and then when it's exactly over the pillar, there we are, that's now dropped into its position, it's in that hole, and I should be able to balance it again if I'm getting really good at this. But you've got to do it on a mirror surface, and then you've got to use very, very subtle movements of the hand. Ooh, a little bit more to that side. Ooh, tiny bit more. Oh, that's so close. Oh boy, can't breathe. So there are some very interesting puzzles out there, but only perhaps 1 in 100, what I call photogenic enough to appreciate on camera. So I've tried to put those together. For instance, this one here is a lovely concept, which a friend of mine over in America made. It's one of these impossible objects. It's a complete apple there, there's no joint in the apple whatever, and yet there's a little arrow that's gone through it and been pushed through. Somehow it's been done. Some people say, well, you can put a tiny sprig of a tree when it's very young through and then let it grow for about 3 or 4 seasons until it fattens. It's a bit time consuming to say the least. But there is another way of doing it, which is to take certain types of wood, I'm not sure what they are, steam them and then compress them and then push it through when it's been compressed, and then somehow I think when it dries or something it expands to the original size, and you don't realise that certain types of wood can be compressed. So there's a number of possible ways of doing that, but I've only come across 2 possible ones so far. But it's a nice object to hold and say, how is it done? There it is, an impossible object, because the arrow's too big to come back through the hole in the little wooden apple. A friend of mine, Simon Nightingale, made this a few years ago. It's a beautiful idea, very nicely made. It's there's a lot of magnets hidden in there, and there's magnets hidden in here. When you try to put it in, it won't go in. You try to put it in, and it just won't go in. Every other which way it doesn't go in. Until you learn the secret, which is possibly that way, I'm thinking. Takes a bit of time to do, because you've got about 24 permutations, and it's pure trial and error. You can't tell. The actual cube itself is completely symmetrical in all ways until you know. Anyway, that's a good one. I've come across some puzzles, typically those made by Lambert Bright, which are so beautiful in themselves that I don't think I've ever solved this. I got it about 10, 15 years ago, but it's a lovely version of the Minotaur. There's Theseus and there's the Minotaur, and this is the maze which he's got to somehow get in or out of. But the work and craftsmanship that's gone into this is just superb, and it's so distracting me whenever I look at it. I quite forget the idea is to disentangle and get this figure here away from the maze. There is a way of doing it, but I haven't bothered to solve it because I just enjoy seeing the pure skill of this man making very, very high quality mechanical puzzles. It's a release puzzle, but what a quality. And here's another one he made a few years later called a penny farthing. And again, it's just a cord and a piece here. But this is actually the figure of an old, what Colonel Blimp he looks like, who sits on a penny farthing like that, just about, with his body there. And there's the large and the small wheel of a penny farthing. Beautifully made. And it's a disentanglement, but I've always admired it for its appearance, and I forget about trying to solve it. That's often the case. Here's something again which I haven't bothered to solve, but I just love gears and things that move back and forward like that. This reminds me of the London Eye, in fact. But the idea is to move this up and down to a certain position, move it back and forward. Eventually you can take it off. I don't think I've ever done that. I've just enjoyed playing with the actual mechanism itself, which is a thing that rolls up and down the rack, like a rack and pinion almost, like a wheel. Very nicely done. Haven't yet tried to solve it. It's too much fun to sort of fiddle around with. I feel the same about this one here, which is a superb idea. It's a sliding block puzzle where pieces move back and forward like this, but there's a spider on the top, all fixed together. So the idea, I think, from the blurb is you're supposed to get these these central ones here, there's 1, 2, 4, 6 inner blocks, the orange ones, and then have the block either here or here or here or here, according to the pattern there. To do that is quite tricky, and all the time you're getting restricted, and you're getting the spider legs getting all bundled up. There we are, he's getting his legs crossed. What a lovely concept. They're quite firmly fixed too, so you can let small kids play with it. They won't really, provided they're not too vicious with it, they won't damage it, but you can get lovely ideas of spiders going into little waltzes and doing all sorts of clever things. So a lovely idea for, I think I bought that in all places in Iceland about 20 years ago. And something I've never solved, but just thoroughly enjoy the appearance of it and the idea of having a sliding block puzzle with a spider on top. Wow. Here's another one which I could, I suppose, solve, because I learned how to do the 2x2x2 Rubik's Cube, but this is, oh, I better not drink it, I'm on camera, aren't I? No, of course not. This is not actually a Budweiser, it's a Rubik's Cube, 2x2x2. That's easy enough. But you can do much more exciting things when you turn it, or you turn it like that as well. But if you turn it like here, you can get some very strange effects. Look at this. Very strange indeed. So the fun of it is seeing the extraordinary changes of shape that occur from having that something that's not a cube or a sphere, but just, well, a cylinder in fact. And you get some very, very strange Budweiser effects from it. Something I have learned to do, but with difficulty, is solving the 2x2x2 Rubik's Cube, but I won't try to do that, so I won't model it up too much. The last one, I think, is my favourite one, because this is something I've always coveted, but I haven't got it going again. This is a magnetic orientation box. Very, very clever idea, this. You have to point this in a certain direction, and the Earth's magnetic field lets a little wheel inside, which I'll show you, turn, and then you can open the box. I sort of had it half open here because the mechanism itself needs some adjustment, and I haven't quite got it going, but I'll show you how it works. There's a latch here. This thing will, when it's on, will move, I think, unless the wheel's already turned. Yes, it's already turned. So I'll show you what's happening inside. This is a beautiful bit of engineering. So here's the key piece. This aluminium cylinder has got a magnet there. If we get this, there's a very strong magnet here moving around. So that relies on the Earth's magnetic field to orientate itself in a certain way so that there's a little gap. Can you see that gap there? Exactly in the right place there. And when it's in the gap, when you put the front on, that'll move up and allow this latch to go back. So you've got to find yourself a way of orientating the box so that this is lined up with the Earth's magnetic field, and then the box will open. What a lovely idea. They do have some restriction on that. You can't put it, try to doing it in a very large modern building where there's a lot of steel in it, because it weakens the Earth's magnetic field too much. But generally speaking, it should work. I just need to replace the magnet there to make a much stronger magnet, and then we'll have a go at resurrecting it. But an orientation box, something I've always wanted. With a bit of work, I'll get it back and working again. There are a few of my collection of puzzles which are really quite fun to see and look at, and you don't need to actually solve them, you just need to show them to people because they'll enjoy them. This is probably my favourite. Good hunting.